If you're thinking about starting a membership or you have a new membership, I really want you to pay attention to this episode. Inside of my community cultivated framework, I have the first pillar called cause. And in that, I talk a lot about making sure that you have a path to help your members make progress. Well, some of you know, but I was the director of community for Stu McLaren, founder of the membership experience for 3 years. And Stu is well known for something called the success path. So in this episode, he's going to talk about why the success path is so important, not just for retention, but also for marketing. And if you haven't developed your membership yet, or you're in the earlier stages, I want you to pay special attention to this episode. I love this because you're talking about this as you show up authentically as the leader of the community, you're creating space and safety for other people to do the same in this online marketing world, which is often full of a lot of smoke and mirrors and a lot of feeling like you have to wear masks. You don't really find that inside of your community. It sounds like a unicorn community. It is. So you really need to be a part of it to experience it. But what I love is that you're not just there for the fun. You're not just there for the feel-good stuff. You are really passionate about helping people make progress in your program. You care deeply about the results of the people in your program. And I think that's probably where this whole development and concept of the success path came from, because you're like, no, people actually need a path. They need to be able to see their results. And I, as the business owner, need to understand how to get them the transformation that I've sold them on and promised them. How many business owners are like, put all of their energy into the sale, and then they get the sale and then they kind of disappear and they stop, like their energy goes away and goes back to getting the next sale. You really focus on making sure that you get the person the result, because as you talk about all the time, that result leads to a story, which is ultimately going to lead to the next sale. So tell me how you develop the success path and sort of what the core principles of it are.
Well, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I'm a membership guy. So memberships and success with memberships fall into a bunch of different categories. There's obviously getting eyeballs to whatever it is that you're offering, like traffic, like that's the really important component. Another important component is conversion, being able to communicate and convey the value of what you're offering so that people raise their hand and say, yes, I want to be a part of that. But another big component of memberships is retention and keeping members happy and paying month after month. And the higher the retention, the more profits go directly to the business owner's bottom line. So for me, that's a really important piece that often gets overlooked in the membership world. And when I was looking at and working with so many different clients, many times they would have a decent amount of traffic because they got their following. They were good or okay at converting, but the one glaring area of opportunity was retention. So they'd get people in, but they were losing them just as fast as they were getting them in. And this is where you typically hear people who don't have a good retention strategy will say things like, oh, the average member only stays for 3 or 4 months. And I kept hearing that over and over and over again. And I'm like, that's pathetic. That's terrible. That's like, why not fix that problem? What I realized was a big part of the problem was that people were joining memberships with the intent of accomplishing some goal or achieving some result. But when they joined the membership, it was just a big vault of information, a big library of stuff. And the moment that a member comes in with this big library of stuff, they get overwhelmed. And all it takes is just that seed of overwhelm. And when it's planted, it begins to grow into doubt, into fear, and they never begin to implement anything that they're learning. It would be like walking into a library without any organization of any of the books or categories and just randomly hoping to pick a book that was going to be of value. That strategy doesn't work. And that's why we were seeing so high turnover in the industry when it comes to retention. So when I stopped and just looked at what was happening, what I realized was a massive part of the problem was that people didn't have clarity or direction. And everybody was being treated like a one-size-fits-all t-shirt. Like their situation was the same as everybody else. Like they were starting from the exact same place as everybody else. And that's not true either. So ultimately what came from that was this concept and this idea of a success path, whereby somebody comes into the membership and we guide them through identifying where they are on this journey. And based on that, what content is most important to them right now to be able to begin making progress toward that desired goal. Now, it sounds obvious, but what's not so obvious is how to structure that to be able to serve people at all different kinds of levels and be able to guide them accordingly to that one goal. But what has come from this has been kind of magical. It's allowed us to enable people to experience far more progress than ever before. And that progress creates momentum. And that momentum carries them through some of the more difficult challenges or things that may pop up along the way on their journey to get that result. The other thing that it does is it creates a measuring stick of success so that we can look back and we can say, amazing, look at where you were when you first joined the membership and look at where you are now and how much progress that you've made because of your work here in this community. And in doing that, just in helping people be able to reflect on where they were and where they are now, it immediately communicates the value of your membership and what it means to that person. And that in and of itself just equips them to never want to leave because they want to continue that kind of progress. And then thirdly, it has become by far the best marketing asset in any business. When you can share stories of progress of people at all different stages, of all different scenarios and all different types of markets, it speaks volumes to what it is that you're teaching and how it will help your audience. It is by far the best marketing tool that any business can create. But that doesn't happen if we only focus on the big wins, so to speak, because most people can't relate to those people experiencing the big wins, but they can relate to the people that are one step in front of them. And that's where the success path is so powerful because it allows us to be able to speak to the progress and wins that people are having all along their journey, not just at the end.